Hi everyone, I'm Chris Henry. Thank you so much for purchasing the Moody Greens preset pack. Now before we get started, I just want to say that if at any point you'd like to dive even deeper into photo editing, I do offer one-on-one coaching sessions. We can set up something over video chat. I will edit your photos live in person for you one-on-one and hopefully help you to become a better photo editor. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to contact me at any point. My information will be in the description below. With that being said, let's dive in. If you're like me normally and you hate YouTube tutorials with long rambling intros and you're like, just get on with it, get to editing the photos. Totally understand. If you're that person, feel free to skip ahead in the video and I'll be editing photos later on. But if you have a little more time, stick around. There's a few things that I want to cover about this preset pack and about presets in general that I think are relevant to the editing process later on that I'd like to cover before we dive into editing. So to start out with, I've designed this preset pack to have tons of different options for you. That means that, as you can see on the screen right now, this is the same photo, just edited with two different presets that's available in the preset pack. One here over here is kind of a warm vintage style dropped on the greens. The other one over here is this kind of cold army green type landscape. Now, the cold army green landscape is normally what I choose to approach editing greens. That's kind of my style. So if you like how I edit greens, maybe from my Instagram or from my website, you can absolutely do that with this preset pack. But I understand everyone's different and certain colors speak to different people. So if you like, let's say you like a more warm style for your editing, that is also totally achievable with this preset pack. So hopefully you can test out tons of different options and you can find what speaks to you the best. Next thing I want to talk about is the kinds of photos in general that work best with this preset pack. So to start out with, this is the raw file of the previous slide, and it is shot in raw file format. This is not a JPEG. Raw files work best for this preset pack and for just about all presets out there. So if you're currently shooting in JPEG, definitely switch your camera to raw file format. It will just work way better with the preset pack. The second thing is that you'll notice this photo is nice and evenly lit. What do I mean by that? It's not too dark and it's not too bright. There's not heavy shadows over here. There's not blown out highlights over here. It's evenly lit. You can see just about detail everywhere in the photo. So that is a good starting point for the kind of photography that will work best with this preset pack. Here's the settings for this photo. As you can see, the ISO is pretty low. If you possibly can, keep your ISO as low as possible. The higher your ISO, the grainier the photo will be, and the more kind of distorted the photo will get once you apply one of these presets from the preset pack. Okay, and lastly, I want to briefly try to explain why I think greens are one of the hardest colors to edit and why so many people have trouble with greens. And that's because I think greens in general should be more of an umbrella term, that greens in reality are actually almost always yellow and green working together simultaneously. And as you can see, these are three photos on the screen that each photo individually you would probably call green, but in reality you can see they're vastly different from one another. This is more of a muddy kind of desaturated army green. This is a bright neon lush green. This is kind of a pale yellowish green. So they're all green, but they're vastly different from one another, and that's because the amount of yellow and the amount of green is vastly different in each one, which means that let's say you find the preset or presets in this preset pack that you love the most and you love the style it creates. If you drop that preset on this photo versus this photo versus this photo, it is going to create vastly different results, okay? To further illustrate this point, I'm going to switch over to Lightroom real quick here. you'll see the foliage around the waterfall. You would probably look at this and say, that's green. But if we go over to the hue panel, let's see what Adobe considers these colors to be. So I'm going to move the yellow slider here. These are the pixels that Adobe considers to be quote unquote yellow. Okay, and let's now move down and move the green slider. These are the pixels that Adobe considers to be green. So as you can see, it's really yellow and green working together with one another. Oftentimes there can also be orange and aqua working in there. So green is really a spectrum of colors. So it varies every time from photo to photo. My goal is that I hope with all these presets, it'll get you about 80% of the way there. But for the most part, because of the differences in color profile for each green, you will have to adjust settings from there, probably every time individually for each photo. Anyone out there who sells you a preset pack who says it's a magic preset for every single photo is straight up lying to you. You have to edit, you have to further edit and tinker with the photo once you apply your favorite preset. And all right, that's enough blah, blah, blah. From there, let's dive into some editing. Once you load the presets into your Lightroom, it'll come up over in your preset panel here as a Chris Henry Moody Greens, and there'll be a drop-down menu. From there, you'll find 12 presets, and to go through each preset today, I've laid out 12 photos. We're going to drop one preset on each photo. All right, to start, let's use number one, the brush filter. And from here, as I mentioned in the previous intro, these presets should take you about 80 to 85% of the way there, usually. And then from there, you're going to have to adjust to find the color tones that you usually use, because greens in one photo are not the greens in the other photo. So adjustment will need to take place. So as I mentioned in the user manual, I always start by adjusting brightness. That's where I start. That's the tone panel here. So let's get this to the brightness place that I want it to be. I want there to be a lot of not too bright, not too dark. I want there to be detail, lots of dimension, but detail in every part of the photo. So even though I feel like this needs to darken up a bit, I don't want to lose all the detail in that spot, because it can start to look weird. So just start tinkering around with this, get it to a nice spot. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so you can see this photo is a little soft in weird spots around the photo, and it's not because this photo wasn't focused. I remember this afternoon like it was yesterday. It was absolutely pouring rain in the Oregonian forest here. So that's actually water all over the lens. So that's why in certain spots it's kind of soft. But we're going to work with it. So from there, after adjusting brightness, always move to temperature and tint. I'm just going to basically just test out what happens when I move this, see if there's anything that happens that looks cool to me. So this is the part where you can do your own exploring. You can decide what you think you like best in your photography. Do you like it cold? Do you like it warm? You can start to just play around and see what speaks to you. So yeah, I want to keep things natural, but I think about right there is looking pretty cool. And okay, so first tone, second temperature and tint, third move down to the hue, saturation, luminance, and I'm going to start adjusting these earth tones, or the mostly the colors that you see in this panel. Okay, so I'm just like temperature and tint, I'm going to start adjusting these sliders, and I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to see if anything changes that actually is for the better, and if it's anything I want to keep. So just moving these around. You know, if nothing changes or you don't like the change, just return back to normal and no harm done. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of green. Ooh, my computer's moving slowly. Jeez. Oh no. Okay, so I kind of like that there's this like the vintage green going on here. It's not too blue, but it's also not too yellow either. So let me see what happened. Turn this down even more. Okay, and also if you've maybe even purchased some of the preset packs I've made in the past, I've noticed, forest scenes and scenes with a lot of natural foliage in them have a ton of detail. There's a lot going on in here. This is not, entirely minimalistic, one could say. So if you actually drop the texture and the clarity down, you can actually start to see more in the photo, which is not what you'd expect. But like you can see, when you turn this up, it starts to get really crunchy, and there's detail almost everywhere, which is not necessarily a good thing. So if I move that texture down, it's actually softening out the background, and then which makes more detail in the foreground. Okay, so that moving the texture back actually was for the best there, and starting to look pretty darn good. So let me just straighten things out a little bit, and yeah, that's starting to look like a done photo to me. I mean, I think it's at a great place. But again, based on your preferences, you can adjust things as much as you want from here, and just see what sticks, see what you like best. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty darn cool. So that's it for number one. I'll show you where we were and where we are now. So that looks pretty cool. That is preset number one, brush. All right, let's move on. Number two, this is my brother fly fishing in Pocono, Pennsylvania, and I was taking some photos. So let's move on to preset number two. We're going to drop cedar on here, and if I can remember, this is going. You can even see it up here while it takes its time to load. You can see it's cool, but it's very like sepia. It's very orange, very magenta. So, but surprisingly, the brightness actually looks pretty good so far. I think it's a little bright here, but like let's drop that down, and then up the blacks, get it a little more even. So this is how I approach photos, like from before. Always the tone first, the brightness, get it to a good spot, then move on to temperature and tint. Clearly, I want to get away from that like old Western sepia tone, so I'm going to push more blue into the photo. It's already bringing things back to a more natural state. And because there's a lot of foliage here in the background, I'm going to drop more green into the photo too. All right, it's looking pretty darn good here. Again, I'm going to play around with this texture panel, and like that's softening the background up, which is actually providing more detail in my mind. So, all right. So from there, man, this like deep desaturated bluish green, I think, is pretty beautiful tone. And you can see the water line, it's a little tilted, so let's just straighten this out a bit. And okay, so from there, just like from before, just see what happens when you start moving these sliders. If there's anything that changes that looks cool. Skin's looking a little more natural right about there. But you can see this was at the turn of autumn in Pennsylvania here. So there's the evergreen and there's kind of the beautiful fall autumn tones all working together, which is really nice. I have like some of these yellow tones are looking real bright, so I wouldn't be surprised if we just isolate the yellow. See, yeah, there we go. Man, that's perfect. It's you know, moving away from highlights and specific colors. So again, you got to just play around with it. Play around with these sliders. There's so many different earth tones all working together here. You just got to play around with it and see what happens. See if anything changes for the better. Man, this is like what I would imagine you'd see in an Orvis catalog right here. The colors are pretty beautiful. Yeah, but okay, so we did tone, we did temperature tint, we did texture clarity, and we did hue saturation luminance, and I think this is at a really good spot. So this is where we were before. Looks awful, looks like an iPhone photo, and this is where we landed. That is magazine quality right there. All right, moving on. This is one of the photos from the introduction. You can see this green is very bright highlighted green, even just raw file format. I don't know if this church was spraying some magical chemicals on this grass, but man, that's green. So let's, I'm going to drop the fern filter on here. It's going to take its sweet time to apply, apparently. Okay, so this is, see, this is a much different color profile than the previous two. It's definitely, which I actually like, it's adding like a nice old vintage look to it. It's nice and warm, but it's also, you probably can see this right away. It's too bright. Everything's just flat and bright. There's not a lot of dimension in the photo. So start out, work on tones, work on our brightness. Drop that down immediately. You can start to see there's a higher dynamic range, more going on in the photo when you actually darken it there. So let's put that in a good spot. All right, it's bothering me. The church is crooked. I'm just going to take care of that right now. Yep. Okay. And okay, from there, the brightness looks pretty cool. Okay, and we're going to do temperature and tint now, just like before. So this is where, like, if you wanted, you're like, ooh, the grass looks cool like that, and I like that it's cold. I feel cold. I like that effect. I like that the viewer kind of can feel as cold as I did on this day. Or if you're like, I want it to be warm and inviting, and serious tones, now I'm pushing it back. So for this one, it's definitely focused more on being warm, so we're going to keep it that way for this particular one. I can see, like, still looks a little soft on the church. I have a feeling this photo would benefit from upping the sharpening, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, look at that. Sharpening did wonders there. Everything's looking a little more clear. Okay, so it's at a cool spot, I think, right now with the brightness and temperature and tint, just like before. Move down to hue, saturation, luminance. We're just going to start moving and playing around, see if anything sticks. Yeah. Kind of nice, okay. And again, you can do what, this is where you can go wild and try all different kinds of things and create your own look, but I am just approaching this the way I think it looks nice to me. So wow, it looks like yellow is really the dominant color here in the texture, so looks cool right there. Yeah, look at that. Almost no green at all. Even though you think, you really think that, like, starting neon green that this lawn was would be green, but look at that. There is no, Adobe doesn't recognize any of that as green. Kind of goes off of what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so is that a good spot? If you followed my photography for a while, you know I like a nice moody sky. So let's do that. Let's bring some mood and some drama into the sky here. Yeah, that's cool. Looks really cool. It's a little now yeah. All right, so I was trying to make this part of the sky kind of match the blue of that part of the sky. So this looks beautiful. It's I think a really unique combination of blues, warm, and warm tones almost working in tandem. So personally, for an Instagram, I would probably focus things in on this area. You know, a good crop is a skill worth working on. That looks great. And I would probably in Photoshop clean up the random junk, like whatever that maybe get rid of the benches, the lights, get rid of that. Just clean up the photo in general, and it's looking beautiful. So this is where we were. You see that? Remember that highlighted green, and that is pretty nice. Remember, people, this preset pack is called Moody Greens for a reason. You know, this is not like if you're like, oh, I liked the nice bright greens there. Well, this is Moody Greens. So, all right, moving on. This was also from the intro. This is a palish yellow color. So might have to do some adjustments here, but this is one of my favorite presets from the preset pack. It's called Gecko. And drop that on there. I think this one is moody, but still like the colors are actually still pretty vibrant. Right away, I think that doesn't need to be quite as sharp as it is right now. I had the sharpen all the way up on that one. Okay, so right away, first things first, as always, drop the exposure, get the tones right. Even drop it just a tad more. And that looks good. So now we're just going to move this around, see if anything sticks. If you like it real cold or if you like it a little warmer, I think I like, if you push a little more warm, it's nice in there. Ooh, that's really cool. That looks nice. So now hue saturation, going to move down here. I like the like reddish brush that has come out of this, and do want it to be kind of green. I can see this is like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but like the parts in this mountain that are not the green, it's kind of a weird color. It's like purplish somehow. So I have a feeling it's one of these blue sliders here. Yeah, see that. So if I even push that aqua that way, it actually took care of some of that weird blue I think was in the photo. Okay, so it's already looking pretty cool. Something I love about this preset is that the blues are just kind of, they really pop out, especially in these like mid-tone fog over here. So lastly, you know, I got to do it. I got to add that moody sky. Don't think it needs quite more blue than it already is. So let's get this thing looking pretty moody. Oof. And yeah, it's too blue. So I'm just going to drop that back down. All right, what happened? There we go. All right, man, that looks great. Wow, such pop colors in this one. So look where we were. That's so flat, and then give it a real punch. So that's the Gecko filter for you. All right, moving on. This was, you know, kind of part of the intro also. This is Kieran, an area in Scotland. I'm probably butchering how you pronounce that, but this one, man, that gets you much closer right off the bat than the other ones. So this is already like, it's a nice pea green, and by pea I mean the vegetable. So nice pea green in this photo. Already the brightness doesn't need adjustments. I think it looks good, and let's just see if we move this around. This is, you know, again, this is up to your personal preference. If you wanted to be freezing cold, move your sliders, but for this one, it's kind of focused on being warm, so I'm going to keep that on the warm side. Just for this filter, I think it looks nice. And I like I like that if I push a little magenta into it, the kind of other earth tones come out of this. I think they're working nicely in tandem with the muted warm green. So once again, can't be stopped. Let's drop some of that graduated filter in here. And one more. I should really turn this blue down. But okay, looking pretty cool. And this one here also. Okay, that's looking pretty cool, right? So that's where we started, and this is kind of a unique approach to greens, I think. So that's cool. All right, moving on. We are into the jungle. I took this in Costa Rica, exploring in the jungle. So it's only fitting to call this preset jungle and use a jungle preset. Okay, so you already know what I'm going to say right away. Too bright. So let's drop that down. Drop it way down. Ooh, look at those beautiful deep tones. It's pretty striking. It's almost close already. Because yeah, I got the clarity and texture drop down, so you can see all this kind of detail and all the crazy jungle going on here. The only spot I'm noticing that could use some attention is like right here. It's like just gray. I like the deep dark green, the desaturated green, but that's just gray right there. So let me try to brush in some. It's actually pretty nice. Added some more depth to the what the human eye will end up looking towards, because he's looking towards it too. So, all right. I mean, that's pretty much, to me, it's a done photo. I mean, I'm trying to teach you to always experiment, so you can move these sliders around, just see what happens. But I'm kind of liking what's going on already. So, but you know, it's up to you. It's up to your style. All right, moving on. Part of the intro as well. This called this one Moss. Took this one in Iceland. This one, I designed this one to intentionally really give off that cold look. That I was cold when I took this, and I want to relay that to the people looking at my photography. I want them to see this and be like, that is a cold scene. So the lighting looks good already. Don't think I need to adjust the tones, but you know, again, every time move these around. If you want it that's extra cold, this is not quite as cold. You know, I'm kicking those blues just by, you know, subtle movements in the temperature and tint can really have a big effect. But for this one, I like how cold it looks. It's very intimidating. This kind of really embodies the moody blue goal of this preset pack. So, all right, so from here, move things around. I have noticed that, you know, we discussed this earlier in the introduction, that most greens and most foliage in general is not just green, it's a combination of colors working together. With that being said, if you make those combinations of color all be the same color, like if I push this green to just be the same color as what is also yellow, you can see it starts to become, it's really uniform, but it's very artificial looking. Like, I think you need to have a little bit of range between what's yellow and what's green, even just slightly. Things can look a little more natural. Like, that looks more natural to me than everything being bluish green. Okay. That looks like a done photo to me. This is where we were, and this is where we are. Nice. All right, moving on. Number 8. I shot this one with a drone in Norway. Crazy landscapes up there. This one can go along in the similar vein to the moss one. So what are you noticing already? I'm noticing problems with the brightness. It's mostly too dark around here, and you can actually see it's overexposed right there. So I'm gonna have to tweak that a little bit. So the highlights, and then bring everything up from here. So tinkering around with the tones here. That looks like it's in a pretty good spot. I still not thrilled with just right there, but I think like I assume some of you know the tone curve. This right here is the highlight. The the brightest of the highlights is at the top of the tone curve. So I'm just going to put an anchor there and drop that specifically just to take care of those brightest spots in the sky. Okay, that was cool. I like this one is built to have blues be very blue, but I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah, I think it's a little more realistic looking if I drop the blues a tad. And let's see. I'm going to, I can't help myself. I got to add a little more darkness to the sky up there. That looks really cool. That's like once the graduated filter moved over this mountain, it's like the storm has descended upon the landscape, which I think is a very cool effect. So, all right, from there, I mean, that looks like a done photo to me. We worked on the tones, we worked on the blues, and the highlights aren't overwhelmingly highlights. So everything looks great in here. This is where we were, and this is where we ended up. Very cool. Okay, so I chose this photo intentionally because, we've been working on a whole bunch of landscapes so far, so why not move to a different subject? I shot this parrot in Costa Rica, handsome guy. So drop the palm, number 9, the palms preset on here. It's already, the color tones are looking real nice, but I can tell right away it's a little too bright. So let's drop those down, and you can see the tones are just evening out from there. And I think getting even closer to the eye, I think, would really benefit this photo. Oh man, that's pretty striking. I can see there's a little bit of weird blue right there, and it's losing color, and so I think that can come from moving one of these sliders. Let's see. I think we drop this even more. Yeah, that's pretty beautiful. Man, these colors are beautiful. All right, so yeah, from there, we did our brightness, we did our temperature tint. I'm going to move down to HSL sliders and just going to see what happens. I think I like that the eye is the only red thing, so I'm going to keep it red. See, use the orange slider. Like it there. Yellows. Oh, it's nice. That's really nice. Push the yellow more to the orange side. It's getting a little more vintage type. And yeah, that's really cool. Okay. Yeah, this looks like a done photo to me. Maybe just try some luminance thing, see if it does anything for us. Yep, that's great. I think that's a done photo. This is where we were. This is your mom taking a picture with her handheld camera, and this is Pro. So let's get it. Moving on, here's a lake in Germany. Forget what this is called. Maybe Hintersee, I think, something like that. But it's a very famous spot. This is one of those, like, everyone and their mother who's ever had an Instagram has to take a photo here. So we're going to drop petrichor on here. It's a fitting photo for this rainy day because petrichor is that nice smell after a rainstorm. So let's drop that on there. While it's loading, I can already tell it's just a little too bright. So drop that down. But if I drop overall brightness, we're losing some detail in this kind of area. Especially, I mean, this is the focus of it. So up these shadows a bit, and then drop that exposure some more. See, now it's all kind of even, a little more evenly lit. Okay, so it's pretty cool. It's a little bit of a sour yellow over here, and I can tell I just want to move this temperature to the colder side, even things out. Yeah, that's way better. And let's see, do I want to move these greens? Maybe yes, but only a little bit. Okay, that's cool. Feel like everything's looking good, but this area is looking a little weird. So let's see if that's not something over here. Move these sliders. Yeah. It's just that building in the background. Okay, move to yellow here. Nice. And this is where it all is. I like the colder tones that we're pulling into this photo, so I'm going to keep the greens there. Wouldn't be surprised if the luminance is too high on one of the, yeah, there it is. Okay, so you can see a little more dynamic range over there. It was too bright, so and straighten this out even more. Lastly, you already know what it is. Let's bring that stormy, angry sky up into here. See if I add one more. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I mean, I might have made it too moody, but whatever, it looks cool. So, yeah, that's a pretty done image in my mind. It's pretty striking. So this is where we started, and that's where we ended up. Okay, getting towards the end here, people. I know you love the sound of my voice droning on for almost an hour, but okay. Gonna move to pine. And so I like what this has set up so far. There's some nice, I can tell there's warm tones mixed with the cool tones, which is a nice contrast. But you already know what it is. It's too bright. So let's drop this down. Get this a little more dynamic. Yep. Man, look at all that detail in this photo. Looks great. Clarity and texture are low. I think that's pretty appropriate for this highly detailed forest here. Okay, just see what happens. I move these around. You know, whatever you like. For this particular one, I'm liking that there's orange mixed with the pine. So if I push too much blue into it, that'll go away. But yeah, just for this particular one. Okay, so there we go. Okay, but I think in general it can brighten up a little bit. It can just be more colorful. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, lastly, move these HSL sliders, see what happens. Okay, I don't think many changes needed there. I think that looks great. So that's that's where we were. It was too bright to begin with, and that's where we ended up. All right. Last but not least, here's a photo I took in northern Iceland, and we're going to drop the valley preset on here. And I remember this one is very cold, definitely pretty striking, very cold. It already looks great right away. But to me, this blue is, I usually don't want people to look at a photo of mine and just see an edit. I want them to see the content of the photo before they just start commenting like, wow, those colors are fake. That's generally for me, that's why you don't see like vibrant brights in my color feed, is because I want it to be natural. So let's just, the lighting looks pretty even already, and the colors are cool. So I'm just going to jump down to the blues here in the HSL and kind of take care of some of that. Yeah. And, oh, yeah. It's already looking more natural when I drop that down. All right, that's great. Now the earth tones definitely more match the tone of the blues. Just seeing what happens here. Yeah, I like when it's more bluish green. Yeah, that's great. That looks really good. You know what? For this one photo, I'm going to hold off my urge to drop a crazy moody sky up in there. But yeah, that's all. That is 12 photos done live for you. I hope you all learned something. I hope you can create some spectacular images out of your own photography with this preset pack. I would love to see any creations you make that you're excited about. So if you post anything on Instagram that you use to that you edited with this preset pack, feel free to tag me. I would love to see. Also, a reminder, if you want to dive even deeper into editing, if you want to talk photography, if you want to talk shop, you want me hands-on to edit your photos live for you over a Zoom call, and we can talk about it, the process step by step, I'd be happy to do that. One-on-one coaching is something I offer. So feel free to reach out to me. All the information for my contact is below in the description to this photo. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for purchasing this preset pack.